Howdy. Welcome everybody to this next edition of InnovationU. If you could all please take your seats. We're about to get started soon. Thank you very much. Howdy. So just to be considerate of everyone's time, we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Cody Walston. This is InnovationU, TAMUS Resources for Entrepreneurs. Thank you all for coming, everyone here and online. My colleague, Chris Scotti, will be the moderator this evening, and he will take it from here. Thank you very much.
Howdy.
Howdy.
Thanks for joining us today. For those I haven't met before, I'm Chris Scotti, Director of Strategic Partnerships for Texas A&M Innovation. It's my job to connect external partners with A&M spinouts, as well as internally across the system. So this really fits my wheelhouse today in my day job. I am moderating the panel today, as well as kind of bringing some perspective on behalf of the Texas A&M Innovation Office. I'm going to defer most of the content today to my esteemed panelists. Our goal today is really to highlight collaboration across the institution and give you some practical ways to engage. And a little bit about TI, or Texas A&M Innovation. Our office mission is to harvest innovations, to protect that intellectual property, and to get those technologies out into the marketplace. We serve all 12 universities in the Texas A&M system, so not just the main campus we're sitting in today, plus 8 state agencies. We act as a connector across research, entrepreneurship, and industry partners, that marketplace. And it's an emphasis on collaboration across the system, not just duplication of efforts, which we're going to talk a little bit about today in a way that we fill gaps with each other. Now, I'm also part of the New Ventures team, along with Laura Lee Hughes, which I saw. Raise your hand, Laura Lee, if you're in the room. She's in the back over there. And Sam Kim, who many of you met before. We particularly give support to faculty, staff, and sometimes graduate researchers commercializing Texas A&M IP, potentially out into startup companies. We do early market assessments. I saw Daniel here as well. He works on that team along with David Sandhop. And we do mentor, advisor, and investor connections. We provide funding support through a few different programs. The Advancing Discovery to Market program, also connections to SBIR and STTR programs, and advising related to those. And of course, an area that I'm very involved in is investor introductions and helping you make connections. So you see up on the screen, I think, if you put my slide up, the new ventures at tamus.edu, don't forget the S. That will get your project or your technology in front of our new ventures office, and we'd be glad to help you think about forming a startup around your technology. Now I'm gonna call on my panelists here to give their own introductions, but I did want to give a couple of points that hopefully plant some seeds for questions, because we are going to devote most of the conversation today around what you want to talk about. I, in particular, operate as a connector or a bridge to entrepreneurial support organizations. So you might hear me use the term ESOs. That's any mentor-driven program that helps startups. Often it bridges over into funding areas, but think about incubators or accelerators like Greentown Labs or T's Clean Energy Incubator, Velocity TX or TMC Innovation down in Houston for health tech, or investor groups like Aggie Angel Network or the other angel networks across the state, as well as VC groups like Antler, and way too many to list here that we work with and can help get you and your team connected to. We support across all readiness levels, from idea to investment ready, including many of the programs you're going to hear about today. A few of the programs here at A&M College Station include the Advancing Discovery to Market program, which helps, it's a multi-million-dollar A&M fund run by the Division of Research, helping advance faculty technologies toward commercialization. That all stays internal. Okay. I also run the Texas A&M New Venture Competition, which happens every May, but really the application process starts in February. It's for investment-ready startups, and it's given out over $5 million in prizes across the 10 years it's been in operation, and it gave out over $1.5 million last year. So the key message I want to leave you with today, at least from my perspective, is that Texas A&M Innovation is the front door for commercialization support across the A&M system. We help teams navigate from idea to validation to funding, and then ultimately to scale. And we're about connecting people, resources, and opportunities across the system. Now, each of our panelists today represents a unique part of this ecosystem. You might have seen, we originally had Sanjay Bali joining us from Prairie View A&M. He had a last-minute emergency that prevented him from being here. I'll do my best to fill on a couple things from his perspective, but we've got some really cool panelists. They're going to join us from all stages today, and I wanted to start with some short introductions from each of them, kind of in the order of which they represent and where they engage with our startups. So I'm going to start with you, Dr. Biswas.
Howdy. I'm Saurabh Biswas. I'm presently with Texas A&M Engineering. I'm professor of practice in biomedical engineering and executive director for technology transition. My experience in academic innovation and technology transition or translation has been close to 2 decades now. I've worked in pretty much every stage from inception of an idea to an exit, myself being an entrepreneur, co-founder of 5 companies. So it is very important for me that how I can help our faculty, grad students, postdocs who are mostly creating ideas to get things to a point of what we call some value inflection. So what I will talk about today basically is to bring in some of those present efforts that we have. But end of the day, it's my job is to help all the innovators across the campus, more so focused on engineering, but also through Texas A&M's I-Core program, is how we can help them bridge the initial challenges and potentially get to the next stages with my co-panelists are going to talk about.
Doug?
I'm assuming you can hear this okay, right? I don't have to lean into it. Thank you. Doug Milbauer, I'm the director of the Coastal Bend Business Innovation Center, Texas A&M University, Corpus Christi. So we're a systems school down on the beach or on the island, depending on who you talk to. In addition, I'm also an assistant professor of practice for entrepreneurship on campus. So I have dual roles, staff, I run the center, and 2, I teach undergraduates in entrepreneurship and professional sales. So my background is a little different. I'm not an academic by background. I'm a serial entrepreneur with a late life pivot into academia. And I have a 35,000 square foot center down there, and we interface with students, with faculty, and with the community. We have multiple programs that we run out of that center. We also provide housing for startups Right now, we're housing about 21 startups in our facility. And like Chris said, we act primarily as a connector. Okay, we like to connect people with additional resources or additional help. We're kind of the business component. If you have research or an idea, but you don't know what to do with it or how to monetize or commercialize it, we could be the first stop for the folks around our community to stop in and talk to us about what to do with this. Is it commercializable? Is it monetizable? And we can help you vet that out.
Matt?
Howdy. Matthew Kebodeaux with the Aggie Angel Network, 25 plus years of oil and gas experience from entry level up to an executive level. One of my last roles ran a $2 billion global completion business for Baker Hughes. Since that time, I'm now semi-retired. The last 5 years, I've been doing angel investing, and we have about 30 different companies that we're invested in. So very different in that I'm not from academia. I'm not an entrepreneur, but I have the business knowledge and the business experience. I'll say that I saw at least 2 other angel investors in here today. So if you don't like my answer, feel free to ask one of them. It would be interesting to see if they actually give you a similar answer. So thank you for the invite today, Chris.
You bet. Thanks for being here. So I'd like to dive a little bit deeper into the programs that each of you represent. Maybe tell us a little bit about the stage of idea or entity that your programs are meant to serve and how those teams first engage with your program.
Okay, but I will start with that. So I mostly work at the earliest stages of innovation. So what we can call it TRL1, or sometimes purely conceptual or ideation stages. So the program I lead, and this is across A&M system, though primarily we have most teams from engineering, but this is called Texas NSF I-Core program, but it is just not meant for NSF funded teams. It is meant for anyone. The keyword is working on deep tech ideas. And when I use the word deep tech, you might have heard that before. It's basically we are talking technologies which have a considerable long life cycle of development. They have significant intellectual property, and they require also quite a bit of fundraising to get them to a point of some kind of success in prototyping and then scaling. And these are technologies which are difficult in terms of bringing them to market from concept all the way up to testing and then validating, and then a lot of them are regulatory hurdles with them too. So with the I-Core program, which was started by NSF in 2011, and I've been very fortunate to be part of that from 2012. At this point, close to 3,000 teams across the country have done the program. It has led to creation of 600 companies. They've raised over $4.5 billion. And none of this would have happened without a program which truly teaches all our academics how to do product market fit. We all are great innovators on this campus. We work on difficult problems. We invent great tools, great ideas, great devices. We have great theoretical framework of problems. But the challenge is when we try to create products out of them, most of the time we fail because we miss the market cycle. So from NSF's standpoint, when the program started, the goal was quite simple. How can we help innovators without trying to make them an MBA or trying to make them someone from an existing industry's background, go and ask right questions, which leads to a very, very solid product market fit. And that's what the program is about. We have multiple layers of the programming. We have a programming across the hub. So when I'm talking NSF I-Core, we're part of a Southwest hub, which is a program across Southwest. In Texas, we have A&M, Rice, and UT. And outside Texas, we have LSU, and there are other groups at 9 universities. We serve the whole Southwest ecosystem. So how does it help the faculty at A&M? Definitely, you can at any stage of ideation be part of this. We run the programs called Idea Launch, which is a hub-wide program which teaches you how to do product market fit, how to go through the programs, and then essentially it allows you to now go to the national program, which gives you $50,000 to do a 7-week program where you do 100 customer interviews. Now, it is definitely not an easy program to finish. As scientists or technical people, we hate talking to people outside our comfort zone, which is by nature how we are designed, but that's what the program is about. Go out and talk to people, get feedback, and make a pivot. But that's one thing we are not good at, because we don't take signals from market and we don't change. And whereas industry has to adapt to changing technical cycles. So that's the program is about. Everyone can participate across the campus. It is an educational program. It is not a program which is investing. Now it is investing. NSF is investing $50K when you go to nationals, which potentially could be the first seed funding that comes to you. If you have raised capital, raising a 50K, the first 50K could be the toughest money because you're selling purely a concept. You don't have anything to sell. So that's the first seed funding that comes to you. But what comes out of that process is this deep knowledge of who is your customer, what is your channel, what are their needs and gaps, and then finally you build something around that. So again, the program is open all the time. It's 24 hours, not so 24, it's 365 days a year. We are taking in teams, 6 cohorts. Now we are going through some challenges with some dates and funding at this point. We hope there will be clarity by early next year. But 150 teams a year that are going through the process, very competitive. We have a pipeline of close to 400 teams at any point of time who want to go through the program. So please feel free to reach out to me if you are a PI, if you are a postdoc, grad student. This program is mainly for graduate level research. And so any of you who want to be, either want to be an entrepreneur or want to get a feeling of what an entrepreneurial, typical day looks like, this is a great program for you to do. And we are here to help. We help you in finding teams, building teams, and potentially once you get to a point where you have an innovation to file an invention disclosure, ready to move forward, we point you to the innovation office, and as their job is to then kind of help you through IP protection. But we try to work with you throughout the process. A couple of things which are important, like which is why I-Core you should do. ADM, one of the program, as Chris mentioned, one of the key success criteria for that program, teams who do very well with I-Core typically succeed in that program too. Because you need to understand who is your customer, who do you talk to, whose problem you're solving. So there are multiple benefits of being part of a program like that. And I'd be very happy to talk to you if you have questions beyond the panel. Yeah.
Thank you. Doug, tell us a little bit about your process and how to engage.
Typically, Chris, they just walk in the door.
Real complicated.
So I just want to reiterate something my friend said is I-Core, if you're not engaged with I-Core, you need to be engaged with I-Core, okay? Because it's the same process, whether you're an I-Core or you come to an innovation center and you talk to an entrepreneur. Basically, they're going to tell you the same thing. Who's your customer? Do they have the capacity to buy whatever it is you're selling? So customer validation is critical. And I preach that across the board, whether it's at the center or with my students, because everybody's got a big idea, right? Everybody's got a shiny widget. But very few people actually do the research behind it to determine if there's actually a market for it. I have a good friend, Jeff Stamp, up at the University of Minnesota, and he says every idea has the right to exist. Would you agree with that? But every idea does not have the right to exist in the marketplace, and the market decides. So whatever your great idea is, congratulations, but make sure you get market validation before you spend a lot of time and money on it. All right. So we have a lot of programs, obviously, because we're pretty agnostic, and we talk to faculty, we talk to students, we talk to the community at large. So we have literally ideas walk in our door out of the community. We have students who visit with us with their next shiny widget idea. And we have faculties who are really deeply engaged in their research, and those get referred to us typically by our research and innovation office. So what you would have here would refer those over to us to help them with the business side of it, right? Because you may be a great researcher. It's like my doctor. She's a great doctor, but she's a lousy business person, right? So they come talk to us, and we help frame out for them what it looks like going forward. Whether that's business model work, whether it's business plan work, customer validation, we try to give them kind of a guidepost of what next steps they need to take if they're going to try to take this to market. So, and we work back with our commercial and innovation office to make sure that everything to do with the university is all tied up, right? So that's critical. But Right now, we're running about 15 different programs, depending on whether it's student, faculty, or community related. So it's and everything, a new program every week, Chris, a new program every week. Somebody has an idea. But if you like to talk about it later, we can.
All right.
Matt?
As far as accessing Angel Network, it's really easy. It's as simple as going online and applying. Now, unfortunately, getting accepted is the more difficult part. We have about 350 plus applicants every year. Only about 15% of those are actually accepted. Okay. So my advice to you would be to use these resources first, because they will help you to get ready before you go and pitch. Okay. Of those that actually apply and pitch, about 40% of those receive some sort of funding from Aggie Angel Network. And that's in general with just about any Angel Network, really. We love Aggies. Naturally, Aggies help Aggies. So my suggestion to you is when you're ready to go and seek outside capital, apply for Aggie Angel Network. Use that as your first step, because if you can get money from us, we also have a network with all the angel groups across Texas. And so the really good companies, we can help plug you in to other places as well. Of course, our members, most of which are Aggies, are always happy to help and provide coaching as well. So it really is a third step along the way, based on what you two guys have already laid out. So.
Thanks, Matt. Just so everybody knows, we are going to open it up to questions here in a minute, both online and in person. I believe in person, we're going to have microphones roving around the room. For those of you online, please do take a minute to put your question in the Q&A or vote up and down any of the questions that are already in there. I appreciate the guys sitting in the order they did, because this is kind of a chronological flow. So I'm going to ask the next question and go through the same order again, because I want you to see the progression of the way teams work as you engage at these various different stages. Starting with Dr. Biswas and programs like I-Core, tell us what the team makeup looks like. Are we talking about students, graduate students, faculty, business people, a mix between them?
Correct. Yeah. So NSF, as an agency, definitely its big focus is how do we train the future generations of tech entrepreneurs. And if you look at the profile of those who are doing PhD or coming out of grad school, definitely a very tiny percentage of that is going to academia. Most of them are going to industry. So certainly with the technical competency they have to start making decisions, which requires quite a bit of business involved with that. Now, certainly from an NSF standpoint, they don't want PhDs to stop working on the technical problems, but they want them to understand what does it take to take an idea which is solving some gap in the existing the landscape, and learn the process of identifying the critical problems that customers have or users have, and bring it back to the lab, which is very applied side of engineering. So from a teaming standpoint, they definitely thought through this process. The team of a typical I-Core team comprises of what they call PI, or the technical lead. So the names have changed. Initially, it was PI. Now they've made it technical lead, because they also now open to having the senior researchers or postdocs in the lab who can serve in that role. The students are called, very interestingly, entrepreneurial leads. And they are very careful about not calling them my postdoc, my grad student. They're treated equally as entrepreneurial leads, and they do the key interviewing in most of these I-Core programs. And then you have an industry mentor whose job here is not to leave everything what they're doing and help the team, but rather guide the team through the process. So a typical NSF I-Core cohort is pretty stressful. When you go to the nationals, you have to do 100 interviews in 7 weeks. And during that time, the role of TL, or technical lead, or PI, is sometimes, they are pretty much on the equal footing in terms of understanding what the customer needs to go with the entrepreneurial leads to the interviews. But industry mentor's job is, to a certain extent, sometimes help them with understanding who they should talk to, but also diffuse the stress that slowly builds up as you do the program. So the teaming part is designed to make in a way that industry mentor can see how the team handles, how the team does the customer discovery over this 100 interviews they do. And potentially they might be the ones stepping in future as a board of director or CEO as an entrepreneur because they don't expect the team to immediately become so business savvy that they end up being a CEO of a company. They might be working on $1 billion problem, but they definitely don't have the expertise, which they will slowly build up to play that role. So the team that we see, again, very early stage in their career, they are talking about, now they have the excitement, but they haven't run a business or they haven't been of a product management group, but they definitely have a vision of where this can go. And this process, what we call evidence-based entrepreneurship, they have to then go out and learn the process with the mentoring coming from someone who has been in the industry. Now, we definitely do not see 100% alignment with somebody is in oil and gas, like they find someone like Matt. Doesn't happen because at A&M, we are talking just in engineering, we have 15 departments, all the way nuclear reactor to medical devices and, in chemistry. So we have so many different labs and ideas coming. We try to bring in people who have seen translation of a concept from ideation all the way to market and potentially scaling up. So the teams are, again, a fresh or maybe second or third year PhD student, sometimes two of them, the faculty member, then an industry mentor. And I can tell you, I've seen at this point nationally over 500 I-Code teams, at A&M over 110 teams. I have seen these teams very closely, and the teams who have succeeded, they have a pretty clear pattern emerging at this time. They have a very motivated student, that is something is required. The faculty is very open to taking suggestions from both industry and the student. An industry mentor, has been involved with the team. Moment we see some kind of decoupling happening between these three, I have seen great teams not coming out with good insights because they just could not process all that information that comes to you. So that's typical composition of a team at a very, very early stage. But the goal is to, after potentially 100 interviews, we see unbelievable transformation. You should meet teams who finish these 100 interviews and talk to them. And I have teams now, and we have in the room, I saw Dr. Banerjee walk in the back. He just led a team with finished I-Code. They got the first prize in that cohort. And I have seen the PhD students before the start of the program, and I meet them now. This is completely different change. And so this is a training, there is no prep. You go and you talk to people, you learn. But this teaming that is formed with an industry mentor and TI and PI and students is truly unique. It's kind of a true startup team if you think of how it is formed. So.
And I'll tell you from personal experience and going through a few different I-Core programs myself, a lot of times there's that synergy that Dr. Biswas is talking about can lead to forming a foundational team. I've seen industry mentors then get involved in the founding of a company with the participants in the I-Core team and then go on to other programs. Q Doug, why don't you tell us a little bit about what the teams look like when they get to your stage?
Well, the same. But basically, having an idea is the start, right? You got to have an idea. But sometimes what you'll find out, maybe more than sometimes, is the person with ideas may not be the right person to lead the company, right? And I know Matt will talk a little bit about that. But so the one thing we do is when people come in is kind of assess who we're talking to. So if you're faculty and you're researcher and you've already got maybe a quasi team in the lab, and that's great, and that's helping you with your research, but you may be short on the business side, or you're not comfortable talking to people. Right now, I don't know too many researchers that are uncomfortable talking to people, but if you're uncomfortable talking to people, then that's a gap that you need to fill on your team, because eventually you do have to do the customer validation part. You do have to talk to customers. Somebody has to talk to customers. And having this mentor come in from the business side is critical. So if you don't have that skill, even when I talk to entrepreneurs, when I talk to entrepreneurs who are not researchers and they come in with an idea, it's the same process. We all have core competencies. We all have gaps. Sometimes it's hard to get the entrepreneur to realize that they have gaps, right? So one of the jobs of the mentor is to actually show them, walk them through, look, you're great at A, B, and C, but you're not so great at D, E, and F. So we're going to fill those gaps. We're going to build out a team for you. We're going to help you build a team to fill those gaps, because when you get over here and you start talking to people about funding, what they want to see is the team. Quite honestly, I don't know about the Aggie Angel Network, but the South Coast Angel Network, when I talk to them, they're more interested in the team than they actually are the idea. Okay, because a great team can take any idea and build on it. So having a strong team is critical. And if you're solo and you think you're going to do this solo, then good luck. Historically, I can tell you that you're going to do a lot better if you have a well-rounded team. And if you don't know what that looks like, ask these folks, okay? They can tell you, they'll help you do a self-assessment, okay? And then they'll help you fill the gaps because they're connected. They know everybody, right? So talk to the people here, find out where you are in the process and how you can make your team stronger. All right.
I'll tell you, you could just repeat what you said, my answer. Generally speaking, by the time a company comes and pitches to us, the technical founder really has moved from the lead to being the technical lead, if you will. They're still involved greatly with the company, but they're that technical resource rather than the CEO, COO, whatever you want to call the person with the business experience. We want to see someone who understands business, who knows how to scale a business, who understands the manufacturing process, understands commercialization, of course, the finances and accounting side of it. You have to have one or more well-rounded people who can truly take a business and grow it. And generally speaking, that is not the technical founder. Again, like I said, that technical founder is generally chief technology officer or whatever you want to call them, and they're still greatly involved. That person really doesn't go away because they understand the technology and they're a vital part of it. But by the time you're taking someone's money to scale a business, you have to have people who understand the business side of it and can answer those questions and really have the credibility in front of a board, a group of investors, if you will. And to be honest with you, you will not get through even the application process if you do not have that well-rounded team ready to go. You'll be part of that 85% that doesn't make it through to actually pitch. TNVC was mentioned earlier. Chris mentioned it. TNVC as an investor, TNVC has been one of the best investment competitions that I've been involved with. And I've been involved with it since I've been in the Aggie Angel Network. And so I would invite and suggest all of you inventors, when you think you're ready, apply to Aggie Angel Network, but also apply to TNVC because you will learn a lot through that process. And that learning may be that you don't make it through the first cut, right? But those that do actually get through and get to pitch at TNVC are well-rounded companies and have really come a long way in doing that. And the positive about TNVC and applying is as long as you're not a finalist, you can actually reapply next year. So you can go and pitch multiple times and hopefully improve your position until you actually become a finalist. So.
Appreciate that, Matt. In fact, I wanted to kind of drive this point home of building diverse teams. In TNVC, which we've run for 11 years now, it's over 1,000 companies that have run through that process. We track those companies based on some different characteristics, even after they've competed. And we know with characteristics of the companies that are successful and are not successful. So for you researchers, I know you're very data driven. You want to know the numbers behind this. I'll give you some success metrics here. Over 90% of the teams that make it through to the finals and then continue to be in business for 3 or more years, that gets in the upper echelon of companies, of deep tech companies. The ones that actually get their technology out to market start with a diverse team, meaning technical founder and business expertise. I'd be glad to dive into those numbers more to prove it to you, but we've seen that in practice for over 10 years now. Now, I've got some more questions I can ask, but I know we've got some coming in from the audience online. If any of you have questions here, just raise your hand. Let us bring a microphone over to you. And then I'm also going to look to Cody to relay a few of the online questions as well.
Thank you for the discussion today, talking about the resources for entrepreneurs. But it does look like there's a need for resources within resources. I'm thinking of, for example, NSFI Core, where we talk about a 3-person team, technical lead, entrepreneur lead, and then an industry mentor. How easy is it for this 2-person team to find the 3rd person they very much need? And what kind of resource could we expect to come from the program itself?
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
a great question, and that's kind of is the main bottleneck. In fact, this week a new solicitation came out, which after a long time of request, they now allow to compensate industry mentor. So with the new proposal now, they up to $3,000 can be compensated to industry mentor, which was previously purely a pro bono time. Now, why that's important? Sometimes internally we help with that, but now you can reach out to mentors who are able to help you out. You can give them some financial compensation for the time, but you pay for the travel and other costs. You just cannot pay them for the time. So that change happened this week. So it's a big step from NSF standpoint. Now, money does not solve all the problems we have. It's still a challenge. Finding an industry mentor who can work with the team for 7 weeks is still a challenge. We don't have an easy solution to that. It's our personal networks which we have to go and find and just get people excited. So we have to find either entrepreneurs who have exited companies or looking for the next one. So they are typically very open to doing these things, and we have some good examples through different networks to bring in those kind of folks. Now, sometimes the tech transfer offices like Chris has done a few times, and I think we have also licensing officers who have done it a few times. But that's a problem that we have to consistently keep working on, that where do we get the next industry mentors form, because we have a lot of teams who want to go to national, but unless we form the team, we cannot apply to NSF. So it's purely our network that can bring people in. There is no kind of a nodal kind of single place. But Hub is helping now. Hub is helping from geographic standpoint. We are kind of bringing in people from all across the Hub to help the teams. Yeah.
I'll tell you from experience, acting as an industry mentor is a great experience. I mean, it's rewarding personally as well as being able to provide an invaluable service to those teams. So,
Yes.
Question is probably for you, Chris. Where does somebody go to find out what technologies A&M has put out for licensing that might fit into somebody else's process or enhance their product or something like that?
Sure. Our office, plain and simple, to reach out. And, I'll get Janie here to raise her hand, but we've got license managers in the room. Other license managers, raise their hand. Janie's the director of licensing for our office, and we really act as a marketplace. I'd love to tell you there's this great online tool, and we do have some outward-facing tools, but one of the best things you can do is send a note to our office. On one of the slides up on the screen, it flashes our main office inquiry email. Send us a note on what you're looking for. We'll match you up with a licensing manager that can help identify some potential technologies and help you identify that. We're also working on some new self-service tools that will help you to search for those technologies. But honestly, if we opened up our back end of all the technologies, it's overwhelming. Huge. So we'd rather curate that and make sure that you get what you're looking for. So, go ahead.
Howdy, I'm Kelsey Krevling. I am a startup investor and advisor, but most recently also an entrepreneur. I'm the founder and CEO of Tori. Your inventory tells a story. We just launched on the Apple App Store this past week, so it was a big win. But I'm really interested in what opportunities the university has for identifying interns or working with distribution and communication and helping to promote what the business community is doing within the entrepreneurial and startup space. So as an Aggie, I'd love to work with other Aggies that are maybe at Mays, et cetera, in the engineering school, in the development space, and help them create a development pipeline and program for bringing in new talent.
Well, I'd love to be able to point to some McFerrin folks today, but I actually think they're running a big program, McFerrin Entrepreneurship Center, because that's a great resource for what you're talking about. But any of my colleagues want to weigh in on that one?
I can add on the engineering side. I mean, it's definitely has a huge talent pool. There are multiple ways to engage. Now, if you're just trying to hire, career center, we have the biggest job fair that happens every year. But beyond that, capstone projects are a great way to engage. You are getting access to really, smart seniors, a group of 4 or 5 of them. Every department has that. So I truly encourage it. And they are your future potential employees too. The engineers who are working on a project for 2 semesters, they could be the best talent you can bring in. So capstone is one of the ways. Career center is definitely there. And then just engaging, we have a lot of these internal events. These things are happening. Advisory board of departments. If you're part of an engineering department, be part of the advisory board. So you have visibility into what's going on in the department. So there are multiple ways to engage. So if you have specific interest, I'm glad to talk to you.
That'd be great.
But there are many ways for you to, get plugged in on the engineering side.
Okay, so that might be maybe just some advice. It'd be really neat for businesses. I know I've done a lot of work with the career centers in the past for different companies, but to almost have a pipeline of students who are interested in internship opportunities, not full-time jobs, that businesses can then tap into and almost see what the pool of resources are and what people are interested in and be able to co-develop. Because I'd love to be able to give students credit for their classes,
Absolutely, yeah.
things like that. So, okay.
No, that's great.
I know we've had some online questions come in, and Arnold will get to you as well. Cody, you want to relay any of the online questions yet?
Sure. We have a question from Renee Richer. Her question is, I'm a PhD candidate who has created IP as part of my research. How can I access direct support from TAMU Corpus Christi or TAMU System? I'm a graduate of both.
Doug, you want to start with that one? It's in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, you need to get a hold of R&I in Corpus Christi, Janet Donaldson, Dr. Donaldson, and she will point you in the right direction and hook you up with the right people.
And I'll also bring up the programs that we're talking about here, whether the Angel Network, Aggie Angel Network, any of the Angel Networks, or I-Core, are open across the entire system. All right, so this isn't just limited to a single institution. And many of these programs have virtual components as well. Any other online questions have been sitting for a little bit?
We have another question here. One of them is, several of you mentioned helping teams to become investment ready. What specific milestones or signals do you look for before connecting a company to investors?
What do you look for?
I would say it depends on the technology and the company. It would be real easy to say first revenue, but that's not the case. I mean, we have invested in medical devices that aren't even FDA approved yet. So it all depends on the type of business it is, the type of technology it is, because obviously the road to commercialization is a lot longer, or for certain technologies like medical devices. I will say that AAN likes to get, or any angel network likes to get invested earlier on, as early as possible, because the earlier you get in, obviously your position there with equity is better than a later stage. With that said, it still has to be to a point where it's actually investable. And that's where I'll flip it back over to these guys, because again, you have to have the team that's there. You have to have taken the technology to a point where it has credibility. You've proven the basis of it. I will take that a step further and say, even before you come and pitch to an angel investor, I want to see that you have more invested into that financial investment in that than just a grant or money from the university. I want to see your personal investment. Those companies that the founder has taken their 401k and worked to build that company up, and they've taken that as far as they can possibly go. Those are the ones that oftentimes become the most investable for us, because that founder has so much more credibility than just someone who's pitching a technology that was developed at the university, and they have the grants that help to support it. Not that those aren't important, because the grants certainly help to bring that technology further along, but it's again having the credibility in front of an investor.
I think that's a perfect answer. I'll give you a real live example. I'm working with 4 PhDs who have a technology in air quality monitoring. Okay, I'm ignorant about this kind of stuff. So what I did was I sent them over to the university and talked to some really smart people over there to see if the technology actually had legs, and it does. So they have already pitched at several different pitch events and had high marks come back for the reviewers. But here's where they fell short. They didn't have a prototype. They hadn't done real customer validation. You know, it was very casual, the customer validation. So it wasn't real strong customer validation. Obviously, there was no revenue stream yet. So they had bits and pieces. Oh, and they had IP. And well, they hadn't filed for the IP, but I set them up with an IP attorney who came back and said, yes, you definitely need to get this moving. So they had all the right pieces in place, but it hadn't all come together. The puzzle hadn't actually taken shape yet. So they're not fundable, okay? So, except by family, friends, and the other one. So, but they're close to being pre-seed fundable. But they have to put some effort in and put some capital in that they have to make this thing happen, right?
Good answer.
I'll echo everything that was said here so far, but I'm going to add one more item because I get a lot of inquiries like this. Will you know, here's my innovation, here's my very technical idea. Will you introduce me to an investor? You know, and I usually have to reply with some sort of prompt or interaction that will get them to tell the story around that technology. It can't just be the technical details of this amazing widget. It may be awesome, but if you can't wrap a story around that talks about how that technology is going to impact the real world, who it matters to, who might pay for it, and how you're going to get there, it's probably not going to interest an investor yet. Certainly not if it relies heavily on technical detail rather than business and ROI.
Chris, could I say something real quick?
Sure, Steve.
Yeah, but so Steve Greer, I'm a member of Aggie Angels and Houston Angel Network, both. I've been an angel investor with Matt for the last 5 years, involved with TNVC. Boy, everything they've set up there is dead on, dead on. What I always ask a startup is this: who is your reference account? Tell me who your reference account is, and I'll tell you if you're investable. And what I mean by that, if you don't know, so I've spent 37 years with HP. I'm a marketing guy. I'm not a technical guy. Okay. Yeah. It's not great, but hey, it's what I did. So, but as an investor and looking from a marketing perspective, a reference account is your first customer. Get a customer. Don't tell me about your technology. Don't tell me how much you love your company, because you know, these guys, you fall in love with your technology, you fall in love with all this. The problem is nobody cares unless you're fixing a customer problem. So I always ask, so can you tell me who your reference account is, please? And I get these blank stares. And I explain, a reference account is basically your first customer who is in love with your solution because you fixed a big problem they had, and you can send other customers to them. And that's important. And by the way, getting to that will teach you a whole lot of things that these guys from Chris on down have all said. If you can get a customer reference account who is willing to go talk to other customers, all these things that they've talked about, and they're all right on. They're dead on. They've all been fixed, right? Your IP's been fixed. All this other stuff has been taken care of. And that's what I always ask people. And I get a lot of blank stares. So that's kind of my input in this as an angel investor. So
Thanks, Steve. We'll add a chair for you next time.
no, I don't want a chair next time.
I would just add one thing, and typically we get into this language of exit, customer, and which is definitely one needs to think of. But from what we do, from again a deep tech standpoint, one of the key things we sometimes lose track of is strategic partnership. That is something is more and more critical for a company when you're trying to build a product which requires an ecosystem to succeed. You always cannot take a product from concept all the way to market by yourself. So as Steve just said, who is your first customer? To get to that customer, sometimes you are going to need strategic partners. You are seeing in the world of AI, which is all the partners are making it happen. You cannot make it happen yourself. So one of the things I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs who have ideas and who still have big gaps, I tell them, don't try to keep everything to yourself. Go and find a strategic partner. You might have some material in your product which is going to require someone who can manufacture at scale. You are thinking magically everything will happen once I raise capital. It will not happen. So that's the other thing, is if you can find a partner who is happy to work with you and sees a benefit at the end of the day, that you could be that customer is going to buy the materials from them, or whatever be the partnership, the reason you're partnering with them, that's going to be a big, big win for you when you're going to pitch to any, from seed to all the way to Series B and C, that, hey, we have these three or four partners who have invested in us. And as we get to a point of building our product or launching our product, we are going to work with them to bringing it to market. So other than just how to get a product to market yourself, think of who else in your ecosystem could partner with you to get it to market quicker. So,
Arnold, thanks for patiently waiting. Got a question for us?
I'm fuming. No. I'm Arnold Castro, the Dean of AI at Mace Business School. Now, I wanted to answer some of your questions from earlier. So we at Mace just hired actually a new executive director of entrepreneurship and innovation to help lead some of the initiatives that we have, including my AI side. So I've been infusing AI into pretty much, we're trying to infuse into every program that we have. But on Monday nights, for example, we are having a lot of engineering students and different business students kind of come and try to learn how to create a company and how to, there's the idea people, for example, pitching what the idea is. We're breaking down the process in the back. The technical people are trying to figure out where AI fits, or automation or other things. But what I'm getting at is, as we are connecting these folks to each other, we're inviting industry to also come and get that help that they may need. Let it be through internships or maybe even some jobs. Because I can tell you, I come from industry. I've never been in academia until this job. Some of these kids are running circles around me. They're very, very smart. And their background is not necessarily computer science like mine is, or even MIS. Some of them are marketing people or supply chain and other, specialties. So I highly encourage you to swing by. I'll give you my business card afterwards, but it's called Aggie Innovators at Mace Business School.
good to know that.
Thanks, Arnold. Other questions, either in the room or online?
Yeah, can you guys just speak to specifically the tax breaks that we're in a government shutdown, but once the government gets back up and running, specifically that for innovation around AI and manufacturing, like the SBA, I know is giving out loans much easier. What would that look like for entrepreneurs and students who are interested in building sensors and things like you guys do down in Corpus Christi? What would that look like for them?
I have no expertise in that area.
Now you're talking about SBA funding?
Well, just any of the tax breaks that would basically make an idea a little bit more palatable, maybe to investors, because they are going to be, maybe they won't be, making a profit day one, but they will, essentially be working with house money a little bit.
Is there an accountant in the room?
I can speak for it.
Okay.
I can speak for it from an investor. There is a tax break for small business investors. I'm not an accountant, so don't
do not take this as legal advice.
But I will say that there is a tax break for investors who hold small business stock for, I want to say it's 5 years. And I want to say that it's up to $3 million of capital gain that is actually tax-free. Okay? $3 million tax-free. So you want to know why people are in angel investing? Mm-hmm. Not having to pay Uncle Sam for return. Granted, what is it? Only 50% of the companies that an angel invests in are going to fail.
Right.
Another 30% might return the capital. It's that 20% that you're playing for, and you're hoping for a unicorn somewhere in there. But all it takes is one unicorn at $3 million tax-free to make up for a lot of loss. Right.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'll just add a great resource for answering that and similar types of questions is your local small business development center. We have an affiliated one here. They're all over the state. I'd be happy to connect you with a good lead that can help answer those type of questions when it comes down to tax breaks. Other questions in the room or online? I got one that came up in a conversation earlier today that I'm curious to ask the group. So we got a little bit going on with funding in the federal government right now. And in fact, this, with a lot of the funding climate changing over the last several months, in addition to the shutdown that's happening right now, how is this affecting your programs and perhaps the pipeline of folks that are trying to engage with you in your programs?
I can talk about on the earlier stages of funding. On the research side, definitely there is reallocation going on with certain challenges that's out there. But I know there is commitment to keep funding this because we are connecting a lot of this early stage funding to competitiveness of the U.S. economy in the world. So from a startup standpoint, if you are building out a company, SBIR, STTRs, they are going to stay and they might grow depending on, again, the total size of the pie. Again, I-Core is now mandated for all phase one companies. That shows NSF truly believes that they want people with, kind of some strength in running businesses, getting into these SBIR kind of phase one awards. So at this point, again, the number of again, I'll give you a number. NSF gives 150 phase ones and close to 30 phase twos. For the 150, the true competition starts as those what you call the 3-page summary that goes in. That starts as over 50,000. So you are talking 3,000 or so getting invited for full proposal, and of that 150 are getting funded. So competition is going up. Amount of funding is definitely still we are trying to see what comes out of once the budget goes through. So again, if people are optimistic now, in some areas money is not a problem. If you are in certain sectors of economy, people are fundraising with a concept at this point. But if you are in the other 80% who are still dealing with conventional, engineering areas, you are going through the challenges where a lot of money is moving to the present sectors of AI-driven robotics and things like that. So I think those challenges will stay. The investors, they will either first move to fast growth return, then S&P 500 is returning better than a lot of startups at this point in some areas. So investors are making more money putting their stock, in capital markets. So I don't think this is going to stay like this along. It's a kind of conventional thing we see all the time. But entrepreneurs, if they're going for non-dilutive funding, they have to have a far better quality of proposals going in. That I can tell, being a reviewer in a lot of these different agencies, the quality of application has to go significantly higher than what 10 years back you could have received a phase one award for. So yeah.
I would say that it's going to impact everyone along the chain, because for an investor, obviously the technologies that are being pitched aren't further along and aren't as investable yet, because that additional research hasn't been done, which will then require potentially, if it's truly going to get to market, it's going to require additional capital, dilutive funding, which will impact the founder. So it becomes a challenge for everyone on the startup side.
I'll just add one personal conversation I had. It's anecdotal, but a friend of mine, it's a researcher, I'm not going to name her outright, but she'd always been very resistant to commercialization because she had significant federal funding that was a much easier ask flowing into her lab. But since this is this uncertain climate, some of those funding sources have dried up, or the lead times have lengthened. She's asking questions now because she's heard about things like SBIR or I-Core or other programs that actually can come out of the commercialization process and in the future fund additional research and graduate students working in her lab. I'd say it's anecdotal at this point, but I actually think there's going to be an uptick in commercialization interest just because it is a source for potential funding in the federal slowdown. So, Doug, did you have anything to add?
No, because we're like y'all, we're a state agency. Not only are our researchers at the university impacted by the reduction in grant funding starting last January. But our center's been impacted. So the programming that we put out and the resources that we have available, we've had to get creative, right? We had to get entrepreneurial, and it was great, which really messes with the academics' brains. So I think the natural ideas don't stop just because the money does, right? The ideas keep coming and the entrepreneurs keep cranking stuff up. And I think you're going to see this shift where if they were relying on grants or SBA backed loans, if those aren't available, it doesn't mean the need's not there. It just means the source shifts. And the angel networks and the pre-seed money and the seed funders and the VCs are going to become much more needed and probably more predominant going forward. But that just means you're going to, now instead of applying for a grant on a hope and a wish, you're actually going to have a product or a service that has ROI.
The big challenge with that is I hear so many founders say that they don't want to give up equity, right? They're hesitant to give up equity. And my response to that is you keep all the equity you want, but 100% is zero. At some point, you're going to have to give up equity to get real investment so that you can take that idea forward. And if not even take it forward, maybe it's accelerated so that you can hit the market at the right time and actually get real traction.
Any other audience or online questions before I ask for a wrap up?
We have a few more.
Okay, go ahead, Cody.
Got another question from Renee Richter. Does using any of these resources entitle TAMU to co-ownership of any of the IP, or are the rights retained for the student?
It's a student investor, a student entrepreneur.
It appears that way.
It's my understanding that a student owns the IP.
I'll answer. I'll add a little bit to that answer. And I think they're probably asking about different perspectives, especially if the idea is coming from outside the university or it is an undergraduate student or a non-researcher student. So they're not necessarily using Texas A&M system resources in the establishment or maturization of that idea. Then no, the university doesn't own a piece of that. Where the university owns intellectual property is where there were material resources or knowledge that was created during an employment with Texas A&M University System. Then the university, just like any employer, owns that intellectual property, and you have to go through the licensing process to license that out to the company. But there's lots of creative ways to do that. We would encourage you, if you're questioning, if you feel like you're not really sure whether your IP is owned by the system or not, we'd be glad to have a conversation with you and tell you how things have been handled in the past. And I'll just add, sometimes it makes sense to figure out a way to co-own or jointly own intellectual property. Even if it didn't originate at Texas A&M, partnering with Texas A&M can actually add value to that intellectual property, thus adding value to the company and ultimately to the investors and the founders in that company as well. So just reach out to us and we'll have a chat with
Chris,
you.
to that point, it takes a lot of money to file for IP. It takes a lot of money to protect IP. And if you're a startup, an individual, to your point, Texas A&M has much bigger pocketbooks than an individual does for protecting IP. Yeah.
True.
I'm working with a startup right now that reached out to us for that reason. They're interested in some A&M IP, but they have a lot of IP of their own. But they would rather jointly own that venture or the IP behind that venture in a way to partner and reduce costs and increase their likelihood of success. So, any other online questions?
Next question is, what is the best resource for capital-intensive infrastructure projects, including manufacturing?
I think this question needs a little bit more clarity because, you can go to banks to raise capital for these kind of things. But again, what level? Is it something absolutely at a conceptual level where you're trying to prototype a certain, infrastructure? Like we have a lot of stuff going on in Relis campus, which are building very large infrastructure focused technologies, which are being funded through government agencies. But if a company is trying to scale that and build it, at that point of time, they can go again. I'm assuming we're talking 50 or 100 million scale investment. So in those situations, it has to be a public-private kind of partnership or purely an external capital. Again, I don't know the background. Is it a very early stage prototyping, or we are talking an existing concept which has to scale up? But something infrastructure, it's going to require a lot of resources, and you're talking the whole spectrum of funding that can come from public-private all the way to purely private, private equity and things like that down the line. So.
There are private equity companies that provide loans to businesses based on POs. And so if it's an established business that suddenly has a huge purchase order and has to go out and manufacture for that purchase order, there are companies out there that do that type of loaning. Yep.
Great, thank you. We got one last question here. How do you obtain a reference account when you need the capital to finish developing the technology?
I think at the end of the day, it's kind of like what I said earlier on. It's all going to depend on your business, because a medical device company, when they come in and seek capital, they're not going to actually have a product that is FDA approved, and they're not going to have that customer, right? I think what Steve was saying is you have to have built enough credibility in the industry to where you have that customer that is actually pulling on it, right? So you may not be commercial today, again, depending on what industry you're in, but you actually have credible people, MDs, who are saying, wow, this is a game changer. This would be huge if we got this. And for us, I have an oil and gas background. I don't know anything about the medical industry. However, what's the beauty of the Angel Network is we have about 35 members within the Aggie Angel Network, and we pull upon each other's expertise, right? And there'll be an MD in there, plenty of PhDs, and most people have the business backgrounds. But if we don't have that expert in the room, we can reach out and find and touch that expert, because we all have our own network, right? And so we can get the credibility to help support that product before we make that investment. So I don't think it's a one size fits all, because it depends on where you are and what stage and what industry you're going into. But it definitely, you have to have identified the true need and true end customer. He's a marketing guy,
I'll just add one more thing on that. I love my angel investors in the room. All right. But I'll tell you that early stage investor money is some of the most expensive money that you're ever going to bring into your company. All right. And if you're talking about something capital intensive, like Dr. Biswas said, there may be a bank option or a loan option on that collateral, that makes a lot more sense than taking investor funding, which really should be for growth of the company and increase in valuation of the company. So again, this is an area that we can help get through a lot of the partners here. I'm sure Doug has conversations like this a lot down in Corpus. I mean, we'd be glad to help you work through that exercise and look for some different funding options, whether through investors, banks, or other creative grant mechanisms.
Chris, if I may just throw out a quick commercial for the Aggie Angel Network. We're always looking for new members. We're always looking for diverse expertise. So if you're interested in hearing great ideas and investing in early stage companies, apply to AAN. The application process for becoming an accredited investor and an Aggie Angel Network member is a lot easier than being a pitch company and applying. But I will say that, we talked about TNVC. The Aggie Angel Network has given an investment prize every year since the beginning of TNVC. And this year, we actually awarded the prize to a Texas A&M technology that has been licensed to a company called Humanate. And we are completing our investment right now in that company, which again was part of the prize, but they're going to receive over $100,000 of investment from us. So we're active. We love participating with Texas A&M and helping Texas A&M technologies, but they've got to be credible technologies, and they've got to be credible businesses. But again, any of y'all are ever interested in being an investor in early stage companies, we'd love to have you.
That's perfect. I was actually going to transition into wrapping up, but now you've eaten part of your time. I was going to throw it out to each of the guys. If there's anything you don't feel like got covered today that you'd like to convey to the audience, and maybe you give us one forward-looking thing. Is there anything you're looking forward to, either in your own programs that you have planned for the future, that you'd like to tell this audience about?
Yeah, from a standpoint of, again, I-Core program, we can scale depending on the demand. Now, certainly our challenge is the national program is becoming very competitive with the wait time of close to 1 year at this point. But within the A&M ecosystem, we are able to train teams. So my goal is to see that we are at least training close to 50 teams a year, and potentially of 50 teams, I'm hoping maybe 20% will end up to be potential startups down the line. So that's kind of my optimistic kind of view for 26. Yeah.
Thanks. Doug?
So I think we're ending up right where we started, Chris. And for those of you in the audience who came here, we're in some process of entrepreneurship, right? Because everybody's on the road. So you have a tremendous resource bank available to you, okay? Entrepreneurs are expected to know all the answers. And the truth is, we don't have a clue mostly, right? We are flying by the seat of our pants. But you have people right here, and even if they don't have the answer, they can connect you with people who do have the answer, okay? 90% of my time at the center where I'm at is spent not solving the issue, but connecting them with people who can move the ball forward for them. And that's very powerful, okay? Especially if you're an entrepreneur and you're covered up and you're wearing all the hats and you're already putting in 18 to 20 hours a day on top of your day job. So take the help, right? They will connect you. It's still free, right, Chris? You're
Yes,
not
sir.
charging yet?
Nope, not charging.
Okay. It's still free. It's free help. Take the help.
I'll just add by saying that Aggie Angel Network enjoys working with Texas A&M Innovation. If you are thinking of pitching to the Aggie Angel Network for an investment, but you're not quite sure if you're ready, I would ask that you work with Laura Lee. Laura Lee has access, direct access into AAN, and she can get you a visitor spot to come to one of our meetings so that you can actually sit there and watch the pitches. But again, it's important that you go through Laura Lee so that we don't get inundated with a bunch of visitors all at once, and then she'll manage that. But we'd love to help you, love to support you, and at the end of the day, we all want to find success, right?
Thank you.
Appreciate the kind words, Matt. And I will say AAN has been an important partner to commercialization at Texas A&M for a long time. It's a very friendly opportunity for our spinouts to engage and has supported a number of our programs over the years. And you guys are evolving too. And I did want to hit you up, Matt, just to talk a little bit about where angel investing is going. I mean, you guys are doing some innovative things in due diligence and the way that you are assisting the pipeline of companies that come in and apply. You have anything to add about the future of angel investing or of AAN in general?
I think that is still evolving. I will say that a lot of times the majority of the help that's given is to Aggie companies or Aggie technologies, just so that we can help them succeed. Steve, are you aware of anything more that I know that?
Grab him, hand him our honorary fourth panelist, a mic over there. I
am not the fourth panelist, nor don't call me that. Don't expect much from a marketing guy. I think Matt's onto something here. We've developed this thing called a Pan Texas network here. So I know all the managing directors of all the other angel networks in the state, along with Tucson, along with New Mexico. New Mexico actually has an angel thing in Albuquerque. I thought it was like tourism and Chili's, but New Mexico actually has an angel network. I think what you're seeing in angel investing, it's harder and harder to get VC money right now. VCs are tight. That's the way it is. It has been for several years. A lot of the innovation, the need for funding is coming down, cascading down to angels. I think you're seeing in Aggie, we're actually, I see a lot more with Aggie Angels than I do with Houston. Houston has 125 people. We've got 125 people in Houston Angel Network. I see much more help from Aggie Angels than Houston. And that, what I mean by that is they'll mentor, they'll work alongside them, they'll come along and help. And maybe it's the whole A&M cult. No offense. I didn't go here. My daughter has 4 degrees from here, and she's working on her doctoral now from here. Okay. I just sense a lot more help coming from angels than I saw 5 years ago when I started. And a lot more mentorship and a lot more. I've seen people at Aggie Angel actually jump on board with these startups, invest, and some of them now on boards. We put one guy, no names, I negotiated the deal. He's Mike now is he's a board, what we call a board observer, not a board member. There's some issues there that I have preferences for. But you're seeing a lot more angel involvement with startups, I think, in mentorship than you did in the past, along with pretty good deals cascading down because the VCs aren't investing that much. So I think those are the two things I see that are kind of changing in angels.
Thanks, Steve. And just to wrap things up from my perspective, I know many of you are just starting out on your entrepreneurial journey. Those of you that are founding companies in the next few months, I'd encourage you to consider applying to the Texas A&M New Venture Competition. Applications open in February. Even if you feel like you're not ready, go through the process. We'll give you feedback that will be crucial to you being successful. That is open statewide. So those of you listening online that have traveled in from other institutions or just have something that came out of your own garage, I encourage you to go through that process. We will provide you value whether or not you make it through to the final competition that's held here every May. For more information on that, you can go to texasnvc.org. TXASNVC.org, or just Google it. You'll find it. It's on the competition of its type. But I'd love to see some of your faces there. By nature of being here today, we've got your email address, so we're going to spam you and tell you about coming. But we'd encourage you to come watch at least the afternoon of day 2 and see those final pitches. See some of the best companies in the state for the year. All right. Unless there's any other announcements, just looking to my own staff. I think the room's open for another half hour, 45 minutes or so. Encourage you to ask some more questions, interact between yourselves, and stay tuned to your email for our upcoming programs. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I'm coming around. Thank you. We've got to go make an appearance at this thing in my neighborhood, and then we will probably, if it's with Bobby, you'll end up at the Republic.
What